Hello guys, welcome back to the MMASucka podcast. My name is Fraser Crone, as always, and today we'll be looking at Bellator 300, the fallout from that. We'll be looking at UFC Fight Night, and we'll be looking ahead to next week's UFC Fight Night, which is a deceivingly good card from top to bottom. I'll also be dropping a bonus pod later on in the week. Probably be recording it tomorrow. It might be out Tuesday or Wednesday, just talking about the Conor McGregor situation as far as Dana White. Dana White confirmed yesterday that Conor McGregor has submitted the paperwork to get back into the USADA testing pool. That's massive. That's massive. So, I want to dedicate a show to it. But also on that show, it's going to be a bit of news, but it's predominantly going to look at the Misfits, the Prime card, because in my opinion, this could be the end of influencer boxing if all goes well for the non-influencers in or non-traditional influencers, should we say, in on that card. But like I say, that'll be later on in the week, so keep an eye out for that bonus pod. We'll get 2 this week. But this episode, Bellator 300. So heading into it, we went from 4 title fights to 2 title fights, which was slightly, it was disappointing. Obviously in the week, I previewed it on last week's podcast. You can go and check that out. Still up on the channel. But we went from, like I said, 4 title fights to 2 title fights and a 5-round fight for a title for one of the women in that. I'll go on to explain later. But obviously in the week we lost Linda Vassell versus Ryan Bader. I think that was a Vassell injury. From a personal point of view, that's disappointing because obviously it's a Brit competing for a world title, which is always exciting. But it's disappointment. Hopefully they'll rebook that one because there's no reason not to. So I'm anticipating that be booked for probably early next year, depending on what the injury is to Linda Vassell. And then at weigh-ins, Leah McCourt, she missed weight twice. It's on 3 separate occasions. She weighed in heavier on her 3rd attempt than she did on her first, I believe. And it's just really disappointing because you want Bellator. The UFC did the 3 title fight thing. They've done it a couple of times now. They did International Fight Week a few years ago with John Jones headlining, I believe. We obviously had the 3 title fights that used to often happen. I think they happened back to back at MSG. Obviously, we had Kovacevic versus Jędrzejczyk. We had Wonderboy versus Woodley, and we had McGregor versus Alvarez, all on the same card, UFC 205. In my opinion, the best event to ever go down in UFC history. So Bellator were already competing in some ways with that. They went from something that the UFC have done with 3 title fights. They've then gone to, okay, we'll try and one up them for Bellator 300, have 4 title fights. That dropped down to 3. That then dropped down to 2. It's disappointing, but just focus on the fight card itself. What I'm going to start doing is it's a new, it's a tiny little feature for the podcast, but it's a new thing that I think I'm going to start doing is I'm going to be ranking the cards out of 10 and give a reason as to why that is. Just going forward, it's not a massive feature, but it's just something I'm going to start doing for all the cards going forward that I break down. But on the prelims, Leah McCourt was the standout. She put in a career best performance to finish. Sarah McCann was clearly emotional after the fact. She almost broke down in floods and floods of tears right there in the octagon. But she competed really well. It was a really good performance by Leah McCourt. She's pretty big for the weight class at 145. She does cut a bit of weight, but she's the most important thing is she's tall. And we'll go on to talk about but as a result of that fight, she then faced off with Cyborg later on the night, who, spoiler alert, got the victory against Kat Zingano. But she's considerably taller than Cyborg. It's not not something that Cyborg hasn't faced before, a tall girl. But if McCourt can get it to the ground, it's there's questions to be asked. In reality, what do I think will happen? I think Cyborg will smash it to bits. But these 2 women will now face off for the featherweight title. May as well, while I'm talking about Cris Cyborg, this isn't the way that the fights went on the night. It was actually Liz Carmouche that competed next. But I'll go on to talk about Cyborg because I'm talking about the women's featherweights. Cyborg did Cyborg things in there last night at Bellator 300. Powerful strikes. In my opinion, I want to see the finish from the other angle. It looked like Kat Zingano kind of gave up a bit. Whether she was knocked out, I'm not 100% sure, as in out cold. I think it's gone down as a TKO. I'll double check that. I think it's gone down as a TKO due to strikes. But in my opinion, she could have, Kat Zingano is 41 years old now, I think. She needs to do all she can. Yeah, so it's gone down as a TKO to Cris Cyborg. I think Kat Zingano almost kind of gave up in that one. She threw a pretty powerful kick to Cris Cyborg that appeared to not rock Cris Cyborg. God, no. She got both of her hands up. She blocked the kick really easily. But it was sending out different messages to Cyborg that, I'm gonna strike with you. I'm not just gonna wrestle with you. The finish came when she threw the kick. She then kind of almost fell into Cyborg, and Cyborg sort of just out strengthened her and just sort of utilized that momentum to throw her to the ground and then just rain down ground and pound. But like I said, if I'm Kat Zingano, she's got one last throw of the dice in her career, competing for it's the second time in her career that she's competed for a world title. The first one did not go away against Ronda Rousey, 14-second armbar. This one also, she was up against it from the start. But why she didn't just one last throw, like roll out of position, at least try and regain guard. Like I said, I don't want to throw shade on her too much because Cris Cyborg hits, for all intents and purposes, like an absolute train. And, there's a potential that she did actually knock her out. I'm not 100% sure. I can't say for sure how that fight, sort of ended. It obviously ended with a TKO, but I want to see it, as I said, from the other angle. But it was just a slightly disappointing outcome to the fight for me anyway. Cyborg versus McCourt next, probably early next year. If Bellator come back to Europe, maybe even Dublin, they'll headline that. But it's great. McCourt was apparently paid 30 and 30 for last night's fight, which is a bit of a testament as to what you can do in Bellator. She's got the look, she does a lot of media work for Bellator. It's going to be an interesting build up, but we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. So now, sort of jumping back now to early on in the fight, Liz Carmouche faced Leah McCourt. Obviously, as we know, Liz Carmouche was the only girl in there that could win the belt. McFarlane was not eligible for the belt due to missing weight. For me, it just wasn't that close a fight. Carmouche finished it with leg kicks in the 5th round. That's pretty much all I can really say on this fight. Carmouche just carries on doing it. She's double check her age now, because with the greatest respect, she's not a spring chicken, Liz Carmouche. I can't quite remember her age, but she was just really good in that fight, and she didn't give Leah McCourt a sniff. So she's 39 now. She's undefeated in her Bellator career, 7-0 in her Bellator career. But she's quickly becoming. If you look at her record since losing a decision to Shevchenko in the UFC August 2019. She's gone. She obviously left the UFC to join Bellator. She got a submission finish, a decision finish, and then she got a standing TKO, elbows from crucifix, so another TKO, an armbar finish, an arm triangle choke, and now she won via leg kicks in that final round. She's evolving as a mixed martial artist this late on into her career. She's a veteran of 27 fights, Liz Carmouche. And she's quickly becoming a really exciting fighter at 39 years old in what is, and really should be, the sort of twilight of her career. But it's not playing out like that at all. It's really, really exciting to be a Liz Carmouche fan at the moment. And talking about being pretty dominant in your field, 18-0. 25 years old, Usman Nurmagomedov, who is, for me, top 3 lightweights in the world. he doesn't have any noticeable flaws. He's solid on the ground. He's dominant on the feet. And he's just dominated a former champion in Brent Primus 50-45 on all scorecards. And it's almost boring because he's so good. It's almost not okay. Boring is maybe not the right word, but very same old, same old. You go into an Usman Nurmagomedov fight, especially in Bellator, due to the, let's be honest, the class of Bellator. But you go into an Usman Nurmagomedov fight, pretty much knowing that he's going to win. You know, his last two fights, Benson Henderson, first round rear naked choke, Brent Primus decision. He's a heavy favorite going into all these fights, and rightfully so. He's completely dominant in all facets of mixed martial arts, which is making him quickly become, for me, regardless of promotion, one of the pound for pound best fighters on the planet. Certainly top 3 lightweights in the world for me. So we'll now go on to sort of rate the card overall, should we say? For me, I'm going for a 6 out of 10, which is a little lower than I thought. You know, 6 being the average, is a little lower than I thought I might be scoring this heading into fight week. There was a disappointment because when I'm going to rank these cards, I'm going to go from, you know, the whole fight week, the fights that could have happened, the fights that did happen, the performances, the overall vibe. What I really did like about this card is the theatre around it being 300, the golden gloves, as it were. The golden gloves that Bellator had sort of used for their fighters this year, for this event. It made it feel special, just like UFC 200 with the yellow, but it was supposed to be a golden canvas. To the golden gloves for Bellator, really an extra special little touch. The fact that they got their 3 title fights, will include Liz Carmouche, but the 3 sort of headliners, all the guys and girls on the main card. The fact that they got all of those guys and girls out there to face off before the main card actually started. Really like that. I thought that was a really nice touch. The disappointment was the cancellation of fights, the confusion over the third title fight. And a couple of the performances were a little flat for me. You know, you still got these strange Bellator post-limbs. I don't think we need. I really don't think we need. There's a lot of decisions on this card as well. I don't think it was like I say, I don't think it was a bad card by any stretch of the imagination. I actually thought it was quite a good card with regards to, you know, you've got people like Jenna Bishop progressing to 6-0 on this card. Obviously, I think it was judo. She's a highly rated, or maybe it was BJJ. I can't remember, but Jenna Bishop won on this card. The title fight was the title fight at the top of the card with Usman Nurmagomedov. Good, but because it was so dominant, it was a bit of a flat performance almost by Brent Primus. He just couldn't seem to get on the inside, find his range. Cyborg, again, it's good, but it was because it was over so quickly and there wasn't much jeopardy for Cyborg. It was a little bit disappointing. But that has obviously set up the fight with Leah McCourt, and the face off between McCourt and Cyborg was obviously an added little extra for that fight card. So a 6 out of 10, I think, is fair for that one. UFC Fight Night, Bobby Green in 33 seconds finishes Grant Dawson, handing Dawson his first loss since 2018, his first loss inside the UFC, and forced him to take a massive step backwards for me. With the greatest respect to Bobby Green, is he ever going to be inside the top 10 of lightweight? In a word, no, I don't think he is. Grant Dawson was ranked number 10. He might take Grant Dawson's number 10 spot, but as he's not currently ranked, it's a massive step backwards for Grant Dawson. Not only to lose, but to be finished, and to be finished in just 33 seconds and not get to show any of your game, anything you've been working on. it's really, really disappointing. Sometimes these things happen. He got caught cold. Green will probably, jump into the rankings, but it's sensible call outs. He didn't call anyone out on the mic, but Renato Moicano, a guy who's ranked number 13. So you've got ranked guys calling you out. Renato Moicano called him out. He called out Dan Hooker. This is it's good for Bobby Green. And, Bobby Green went for the longest time without finishing a fight. From what I can remember, he went a long time without finishing any fights. Yeah. So he finished James Krause in 2013, and then from there, I'm just checking, he didn't finish a single fight then until 2021. From 2013 to 2021, he did not finish a fight. He then finished Al Quinta, and he's got 2 back-to-back finishes in his last 2 fights, both of which have earned him a performance of the night. He finished Tony Ferguson by arm triangle, and he finished Grant Dawson by KO in 33 seconds. He's becoming, again, like Liz Carmouche, 37 years old. He's becoming a very, very exciting fighter. What's next? I think he does. He either fights Dan Hooker or he fights Renato Moicano, because they make sense. And he's an established fight night headliner now, without a doubt. But he's an exciting fighter at the same time. And if we're going to talk about exciting fighters, there's two guys on this card that are more exciting than Bobby Green: Joe Pfeiffer and Drew Dober. Talk about Drew Dober first. I think he broke the record last night of most KOs in the lightweight division, beating or just surpassing Dustin Poirier. Dominated Ricky Glenn, as expected. Drew Dober, he fights so often. He's the kind of guy that I can't remember, as ridiculous as it might sound, I can't really remember him losing, but I also know that he doesn't win, back-to-back fights. This is a guy who, finished Bobby Green in December of last year, less than a year ago. He then went and fought Matt Frevola, got finished by Matt Frevola. Then he goes and now finishes Ricky Glenn. He is all action. He is a guaranteed bonus, Drew Dober, and he is an exciting fighter that I will always tune in to watch, Drew Dober. And the other really exciting fighter is Joe Pfeiffer. In the co-main event, finished Razak Al Hassan by arm triangle choke in the second. I think it's a really underrated skill, and it's something that I've analysed a lot, looking at when Daniel Cormier used to fight a lot. Is the action off a takedown, off a big slam. And now with Cormier, he did it against Gustafsson, but I think he did it maybe against Derek Lewis as well. The sort of slam, you carry your opponent around, turn your opponent upside down. If you're in a fight situation, you're expecting to go in there and be the dominant alpha male, and you at one point are upside down, being slammed on your head. That is not a very dominant position. It'll scramble your brain anyway, being slammed on your head at the best of times. But then when you've got a 200, in Daniel Cormier's situation, you've got a 200-pound man, then 260, probably 260 plus pound man, landing on top of your head, landing on top of you as you come down to the floor. It's, I imagine, luckily I've never had to experience, but an awful situation to be in. Now, Cormier always used to land almost with a hammer fist when he did that to guys to secure them, or always used to land with some sort of secure. He didn't just sort of fall on top of his opponent and then have to adjust to a position. He always was aware of the position that he wanted to follow his opponent down in. And I also want to compare Joe Pfeiffer's finish to... that was just highlighting the importance of when you do land a big slam, which is what Joe Pfeiffer did in this one. He's always looked to try and work away into a position, because I want to compare it to DJ's mighty whiz bar, the suplex armbar. Ray Borg was thinking that he was just being suplexed, so he allowed his arms to fly out there, and DJ snatched one of those arms and then almost snapped one of those arms. So it's a really, it's a really important position for DJ to be in. And in this one, Joe Pfeiffer slammed Al Hassan to the ground, and then was able to lock in the arm triangle choke. Really, really good finish. I really, really enjoyed that finish. I believe he got a bonus for it. Elsewhere on the card, Alexander Hernandez. I spoke about him last week. Loses again down at featherweight. I don't know what it is. He's 1 and 4, or 2 and 5, or 3 and 6, or 4 and 7. You just loses one, wins one, loses one, wins one, loses one, wins one, loses 2, wins 1, lost again now. So it's a difficult place for Alexander Hernandez to be in his career. He'll have to definitely reassess. But Bill Algeo is just, put on a standard performance to beat the guy in front of him. He didn't really have to do anything extra special. Headlining the prelims, of course, we had Karolina Kowalkiewicz defeated Diana Belbita 30-27 on all scorecards. She's on a 4-fight win streak now, Karolina Kowalkiewicz. And yeah, I think I'm not sure how much of a step forward. She had those 5 losses back to back. She's now put 4 wins together back to back. She seems extremely emotional every single time she goes in there and gets the win. So, what's next for Karolina? I don't think that she's not. So she's ranked number 15. She maybe goes up 1 place above Michelle Waterson to 14, but she's not going to be in title contention. I want to see her get 1 or 2 more wins, maybe compete in Europe next year, and hang up the gloves respectfully. She's a recognisable name. She's always fun, Karolina. Now we will go on to just briefly preview this weekend's card. UFC Fight Night, again from the Apex, but it is what it is. UFC Fight Night, headlining by Sadiq Youssef versus Edson Barboza. Phenomenal headliner. Edson Barboza, obviously no stranger to the spotlight, as it were. He's headlined multiple fight nights in the past. Sadiq Youssef, I believe, this is his first headliner. And for want of a better phrase, I'm a little worried for Sadiq Youssef in this one. Not that I don't think Sadiq Youssef can get the win, but he's a heavily muscled guy. He does get tired in fights. We've seen him get tired in fights. He lost to Arnold Allen because he was slightly fatigued. He edged past Alex Caceres despite being slightly fatigued in that one. And, since that Caceres fight in March of last year, he's had 30 seconds of action. Now we're into October now. He's had 30 seconds of action. Against Don Chaninis. Apologies for butchering that pronunciation. On short notice, supposed to be facing Giga Chikadze. Chikadze had to pull out, so Youssef fought this guy a week or 2 weeks later. It's going to be a stand-up battle. It would benefit Youssef to try and take this one to the floor and fatigue Barboza, but I think that the worry is that if he looks to take it to the floor and fatigue Barboza, that he gets fatigued himself. That's all I'm really going to say on the main event. I don't have an awful lot, to sort of say about the main event, to be honest. It's a really entertaining main event, and it tops off what is a really good card. You've got in the co-main event Jennifer Maia versus Vivian Araujo. Maia's obviously coming off the win in London against Casey O'Neill, handing Casey her first professional loss. Really good performance. Wasn't taken down in that one, which is always Casey's intention. And she boxed Casey up. She just boxed Casey O'Neill up on the feet. She performed really well in that one. And that was off the back of, a couple of losses for Jennifer Maia, I believe. Oh no, so she lost to Caitlin Chikagan, she lost to Manon Fiorot, and then she beat Marina Moroz and beat Casey O'Neill. Vivian Araujo is on the back of 2 losses now. She lost to the champ Alexa Grasso, before Alexa Grasso was champion, and then she lost to Amanda Hebas as well. She'll definitely be looking to bounce back in this one. And it's a solid flyweight fight between 2 ranked women. You've got Jennifer Maia ranked number 9, Vivian Araujo ranked number 11. It's a solid co-main event. You then got Adrian Yanez versus Jonathan Martinez. That is a phenomenal fight. Adrian Yanez, I'll keep on looking over to this way. This is where I've got my second screen set up today. I'm working on a slightly better setup when I get a little bit more settled into my office, but that might be a few months yet. But going back to the original point, Adrian Yanez, he came in off the Contender Series. He put together 5 straight wins, head kick knockout, punches, split decision, punches over Tony Kelly, if you remember that. And then he lost to Rob Font last time out at UFC 287. And now he's facing Jonathan Martinez, Martinez coming off the biggest win of his career, decision against Saeed Nurmagomedov. Before that, he finished Cub Swanson by leg kicks. This is such a good bantamweight fight, and it's going under the radar. And then continuing on that one between Yanez and Martinez, that'll be a scrap. Yanez will be really looking to get back in the win column, and looking to ultimately bounce back from what was a pretty devastating KO loss against Rob Font. But then we go into another really, really good fight. Christian Rodriguez. If you remember, Christian Rodriguez is he's known for a lot more, but he's also kind of known for the gentleman that beat Raul Rosas Jr. in Raul Rosas' second UFC fight. He's fighting Cameron Saman. If you remember, Saman is the teammate of Dricus du Plessis. He's looked really good. He beat Terence Mitchell last time out in the first round for ground and pound. He got standing TKO in his UFC debut. These two guys were scheduled to meet each other in July of this year, but they weren't. For whatever reason, Rodriguez withdrew from that one. That's a really exciting fight. You've then got Michel Pereira, who's never in a boring fight. We know Michel Pereira. He's facing Andrei Petroski. I think this is a short notice fight for Petroski. Marc-Andre Barrios had to withdraw from that one. So Pereira is now facing Petroski. I mean, come on, guys. That's also upper weight class at 185 for Pereira. You've got Chris Gutierrez on this fight card. You've got Darren Elkins, who's famously never in a boring fight. Ashley Yoder versus Emily Ducote. But the fight that I'm most looking forward to on the entire card, and it's not, let's be honest, these two women have not got the biggest names, but I'm regarding one of these women as a friend of mine. I've spoken to her a number of times. We've interviewed her on the channel. Melissa Dixon's making a UFC debut against Irina Alekseeva, who calls herself Russian Ronda. She's 1-0 in the UFC. 1-0 in the UFC at the moment. She scored a knee bar over Stephanie Egger, but she did miss weight in that one. That was back in April. Now, Melissa, the reason that I'm so passionate about this fight is Melissa's from my neck of the woods. She's from Coventry in the UK. She's the first fighter from Coventry to make it to the UFC, and I could not be more excited for her debut. She's 5-0 at the moment. She scored three finishes and 2 decisions. She was set to compete for the Era's bantamweight title last time out. She did have a little bit of trouble with the weight cut, and her opponent didn't want to take the fight, which is fair enough for her opponent. But Melissa's style is exciting. If you can go back on Fight Pass and watch her fight against I don't want to butcher her surname, but Daria, who's also now made it to the UFC. It's a blood and guts fight. It was a blood and war fight. That one, both women covered in claret, and Melissa is I've spoken to her, like I say, on we've interviewed her. She's just a hardworking, she's just a hardworking person that deserves everything that she's got. I know that she's out in Vegas at the moment, and her husband is. I'm not 100% sure if her husband will be making it out to Vegas to corner her. I think she's at Extreme Couture at the moment, training with the guys out there in Vegas. She attended the UFC last night. She's really sort of she really deserves this opportunity, and for her to potentially go on there now, and if it works out well, timings wise, we'll always have a card in the UK in March. I just really wanted to go out there against Alexieva, get the victory, come out unscathed. We'll speak to her after the fact. She'll compete again, hopefully then in March in London. And like I say, she's just a girl who's deserving of this shot. Hopefully, we've got the weight management is on point, because there was a few problems last time out, but I think she's grown as a person since then. Like I say, I'm just really excited for the opportunity that someone from Coventry has been given. I'm excited to hear Bruce Buffer say, heading out of Coventry, England. It's just a really exciting time to be a UK mixed martial arts fan. Melissa will go out there, she'll put it all on the line. Kill or be killed, and hopefully she's the one that delivers the kill shot. So that's how I'm sort of, that's how I'm looking at the fight card this weekend. I'll be keeping a close eye on Melissa No Mess Mornings Dixon. She's going to be my main focus this weekend. Best of skill to her. And it's like I say, it's a really solid card throughout. So later on in the week, I'll be dropping a Misfits the Prime card preview. I hate to admit it in a way, but I'm quite excited for this card. Could be the end of influencer boxing as we know it. Thanks for listening, guys. Keep it locked to MMASucka. Subscribe, like, and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time.